Namaste and welcome everyone. Welcome to our fortnightly author Q&A by Indic Book Club, an initiative of Indic Academy. We celebrate civilizational literature that celebrates Indian civilization. A very warm welcome to you all. Today we have the author of the latest seller, Kashir, Sahana Vijay Kumar. Sahana is a technology professional. She writes in Kannada, and her three novels have been published so far. The second novel, Kashira, having Kashmir as its central theme, has been widely acclaimed since its release and has seen 5 prints to date. Congratulations, Sahana. So, in addition to English, Kashira has been published in Hindi and proofreading is currently ongoing for the Marathi version. Her third novel, Avasana, portraying the filial philosophy of Pandharpur, entwined with stark realism of Kamathipur, was released in February 2020 and is now being translated to Marathi. A very warm welcome to you, Sahana. Very glad to have you here. And today we are about to chat about a very important book, about a very important topic of our civilization. And we also have with us Hemant Shantigrama, the translator of Kashira from Kannada to English. Very warm welcome, Hemant.
Namaste.
Folks, Hemant Shantigrama is a poet, writer, and translator, apart from being a technology professional, an enterprise architect, and a health tech entrepreneur based in London. He takes a keen interest in history, philosophy, and study of aesthetics. Working in both Kannada and English, he has translated the best-selling Kannada novel Kashira into English in his debut as a writer. So a very warm welcome to you, Hemant and Sahana.
Namaste and thank you.
Thank you.
So at the outset, I would need to thank you both for bringing such a masterpiece of literature to us. I'm in the middle of the novel right now, in chapter 6 or 7, and I was just so unwilling to close it today as I'm reading the book. So congratulations once again. So Sahana, tell us about the story behind Kashira, about how the story was conceived and possibly, what was the one or two top driving factors that inspired you to pen this story down. The Kannada came first, right?
Correct. The Kannada came first, and Kashmir has a very rich cultural as well as political history. So the two key drivers for me were the Neelamata Purana and Kalhana's Rajatarangini.
Sorry, which Purana? Which Purana?
Neelamata Purana.
Neelamata Purana.
Neelamata Purana is for the cultural history, and the political history is very nicely covered in Kalhana's Rajatarangini, the chronicle.
Yes.
So for Rajatarangini, Kalhana makes use of Neelamata Purana. He takes it as a source, which is very beautiful. And in addition to it, we have Adi Shankaracharya ji's life, where he goes to Kashmir and he takes part in the philosophical discourse, and the Dakshina Dwara is opened. So these are the main triggers. And in the Rajatarangini, there is this legend which goes as such. There was a great lake called Satisar in the Himalayas, which was surrounded by high peaks. And there was a demon, Jalodbhava, residing in it, and who used to torment Nagas. And Jalodbhava had got a boon from Brahmadeva. He could not be slain when he was in water. Wow. So what Jalodbhava used to do is come out, create all the nuisance, and then go back and hide in the Satisar lake. And this is when all the Nagas go and appeal to their king Neela, who then approaches his father Kashyapa for help. So there is a shloka in Neelamata Purana, Kaha Prajapati Ruddishtaha Kashyapascha Prajapatihi, Tenasau Nirmito Deshaha Kashmirakhyo Bhavishyati. The principal overlord of the letter Ka is Kashyapa, and the land formed by him is Kashmira. And see how beautifully it goes next.
Very beautiful.
Kam Vari Harina यस्माद् देशादस्मादपाकृतं कश्मीराख्यं ततः पश्या नामलोके भविष्यति, which means the land from which Sri Hari drained the water come and slain the demon Jalodbhava is now renowned as Kashmir. So it happens such that when Kashyapa is faced with this request, he invokes Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. And it is so sweet of our gods. They are so fond of their devotees. Brahma has already given a boon to Jalodbhava. Now he requests Vishnu to get into action. And that is when Vishnu raises the peak, he drains the water, and in that uh, place is where a mandala is created, which is Kashmir. I mean, this is only a legend, but this is so rich, which is very much which we can trace with the names of the places. You see the Anantnag, for example. So they all map to the Nagas and the Kashyapas, etc. So these were some of the driving factors for me. And because of mainly the Shankaracharya ji's visit, I definitely felt that there could be a very great philosophical and cultural connect. It's not just a geography. And that's how I pursued.
Yes. So thank you for that very wonderful and insightful, piece on how Kashmir is important to us. So another thing that struck me, even while reading the very beautiful first chapter of Kashir, where you describe Adi Shankaracharya getting the Sarvagnya title, is about the philosophical importance of Kashmir to India. So, in a civilization, one is there's history, and yes, there is another the beautiful Puranic reference that you just elucidated, and then there is a philosophical angle to it. And Adi Shankaracharya is a personality that nobody can ignore, who no, but no Indophile or no Indian can ignore his contribution to uniting India philosophically on the philosophical plane has been like tremendous. So, would you like to shed some more light on the Adi? Because he is from Kerala, the southernmost tip of India, and his connection to Kashmir is such an important point in our civilization. So, would you like to shed more importance? And why did you choose that as the first chapter, the opening chapter? I loved it, by the way. But any reason?
Yeah, because that was very clearly stated in his Jivana Charitre that I happened to read. So there were all these other matas, the Shakta, the Sankhya, all the other schools of thought which were trying to gain prominence. And Shankaracharya did this throughout. He traced the course of India, the entire expanse, and then he established Advaita. The same was being done there. And in addition, there is a mention that there was nobody that had gone from the south. Now,
Yes.
this becomes important because if you look at Acharya Abhinavagupta's case, there was a man from Madurai who went and who drew a picture of Abhinavagupta. Right now, the only picture of Abhinavagupta we have is from that reference. A man from the south goes and draws the picture.
Ah,
So, with this very mention, I mean, it struck me because Kashmir is not something which is far away from us. Geographically, it could be. The current situations might have made it really very tough to reach, but no, we've always had the connect. We had always reached out, and that intrigued me a lot, and that is why it comes as an opening account in the novel.
thank you. Thanks again. I would love to, read it again and again. Moving to the next question, what stands out in your writing is the research and rigor that went behind creating the world. So when you described the military bunkers. I mean, I could feel the cold weather, the darkness around, and the bunkers around. So I think also I have to thank Hemanji here for preserving that feel, probably because I couldn't read the Kannada edition, and whatever uh, experience I'm deriving is through your translation, Hemanji. So congratulations again. Uh, So, what was your research process? You can take your time and elaborate, because this author Q&A is also watched by many aspiring writers, Sahana. So, it would be really, really useful for a lot of viewers right now, as well as future
Sure,
viewers, when you elaborate on the research.
sure, sure. So, Kashmir is a very sensitive subject. We give all the sensitivity to Article 370 only. We give all the sensitivity only to politics.
Yep.
We do not understand the other psychological aspects. For example, due to the exodus, an entire generation was not born. Families were forced to stay in, say, rooms as big as 5 by 5 or 6 by 6. You'll get that account. There's a couple, Artik and Sanjeev Kaul. You must have already come across Sanjeev. So I began with Rajatarangini. Rajatarangini is a very beautiful chronicle. There is this great king, Lalitaditya, who is not even mentioned in our history books. He is equivalent to or more than Ashoka. So this was a wonderful book. Okay, I got the political understanding. I got the cultural understanding. I the story that I had on my mind was Kailash Pandit's family and
Yes.
Bashir Ahmed's family. This is before traveling to Kashmir, because I have this habit of studying about a place whenever I travel. I mean, even before I took to writing.
You traveled to Kashmir.
Yes, I did. I'll come to that. So I did all the main concept I had was, let me bring out the conflict, the sociological, the psychological conflict between two families and all the characters that are going to play there. And I got ready with all the other material, and I went to Kashmir, and it was so depressing. I met a lot of people, and while returning, I came to Jammu. I visited the Jagti township. There, a few families have been rehabilitated. The same story. So by the time I came back, I was in deep despair, and I called up Dr. Bhairappa sir immediately, because I wanted to talk to somebody who could understand everything, all the nuances and all the aspects. I think I spoke nonstop for about 30 minutes. I was incoherent, and he listened patiently. And I told him I've lost the plot. I had a plot before I went. Now I feel that that is only the effect. I've not even gone to the cause. I have to investigate more on the cause, because Kailash and Bashir are only puppets. Somebody else is driving the show, somebody else is directing. So I want to delve into the root cause. The reason I'm giving you this is, the notion is a novel has to be only a story, an emotional story. It should make you feel all the rasas. All that is fine. How do you handle a subject like this, where you have to blend facts into fiction? So at that point, I was thinking this cannot be a work of art. And I was very honest, because I am not a very trained writer. This is only my second novel. And when I told Bhairappa sir that I have lost the plot, I don't think I can go ahead with my story, because I cannot leave these facts aside. I have to probe the cause. It will be the administrative failure. It has to be a Nehru. Why so many blunders? It has to be a Patel. Why he failed, or what was his helplessness? Why did we even let Kashmir happen? Because I had been to that place, and I could not take my meals as long as I was there regularly. It is so distressing. So when I uh, honestly told all this to sir, he just waited for a few seconds. He paused. He let me calm down, and then he said, "No, you be honest to yourself. Let the truth come out. For now, don't worry about the form. Don't worry about its literary richness or how artistic it's going to be. You just be honest, because I honestly don't know whoever has gone there. I mean, I haven't met anybody who has gone to that place, and I myself haven't visited that place. So that eased my burden, and my research took a different turn. So if you look at the bibliography, it's towards the end of the novel. There are around 69 books that I have listed.
Yes.
That's a different story. I'll come to that later. So my research, I started getting into all the other books, like Sardar Patel's correspondence. It's a wonderful collection of all the letters that Patel received and what he responded. A copy of each. My Reminiscences of Sardar Patel, V. Shankar, who was his secretary, so many other books. Islam, because the main thing that intrigued was the philosophical difference between our Sanatana Dharma and this predatory religion, Islam. So I have quoted three books of the life of Prophet. So the research took a different direction altogether. So it's not that you had conceived something initially, you stick only to that. No, the scope expanded without me knowing, and then I spent a lot of time. And the end result was, after the first version was out, readers were so enthused, they wanted to know the source. So I started getting emails. This bibliography wasn't there in the first print, and they wanted to know the names of the book. I have quoted some. It's a part of the technique I've used. And
Yes.
then we had to come up with the bibliography. And many have found it very helpful. At least that was the gratifying point, that all this research ended up, being a reference material, and it was of help to people. So all this was involved.
Sure. So, because my feeling as I kept reading the book was like, this is a much needed story that needs to be told and retold and discussed, because the subject itself is so not discussed as much, as it doesn't get the attention that it is due. And the whole discourse around Kashmir starts at the, most wrong point that one could, start with at in a global and even in Indian scenario. There, this is one of the rarest pieces of literature that I could find. So I hope the viewers are going to order the copies right away and give it a read and review the book on all the portals you could find. So interesting that you mentioned S.L. Bhairappa Avaru, Sahana, because he is one of the greatest living legends in the literary scene of India. I'm a big fan, probably global scenario also. I'm a big fan of his Sartha, which again
Yes,
focused on
yes, yes,
Adi Shankaracharya again.
yes.
So, could you elaborate on his influence on your writing? Because I am finding, especially the first chapter, I could just myself go back to the world of Sartha as I was
Yeah,
reading.
yeah.
So
He's
what
an
about him, or what about his process inspired you, or made you emulate?
yeah. Bhairappaji is an institution. Everybody in Canada is inspired by him. And the extra privilege that we get is we get to read his works in the language he writes. So you must be able to imagine, I mean, the intense emotions which emerge as rasas, and the moral values that are upheld in the characters, the conflicts in the relationships, the psychology. It is very nice. It's very nicely given, presented in all his novels, and his novels are textbooks for us. I mean, for anybody who is seriously interested in pursuing literature, each of his novels, because of the versatility, the theme, and the effort that he puts in. It's not just the research of the books. He visits the places also. And if you have read Parva and Sartha, you know he can drift to any age
I know.
seamlessly. So I've been truly blessed because I have uh, been, I mean, I'm being mentored by him because I am not a student of humanities. Like most of the authors today, I also come from a science background, and I did not have the knowledge of the underlying literary principles or aesthetics or even Western philosophy or Indian. I did not even have an outline when I began.
It
So
doesn't show in the book, it doesn't at all show that, but yeah.
no, no, it so happened that I began with columns, and after I met Sir and I got his guidance, I wrote a first novel, which was a very contemporary subject. The second, by the time I began the second, I was trying to at least, I was making an attempt at learning something.
Sure.
So he has been guiding. He himself is an example, and therefore I'm also trying to get his guidance.
Okay, so thank you. Thanks a lot. I have come to NYU, Sahana, for being a mentee of such a great author. I know. So coming back to, there are questions flowing in. So I would try to keep the rest of my questions short so that we can accommodate, and we have to go to Hemanji's translation experience also. So before we move on to those parts, what were the I mean, I expect that you would have faced a lot of challenge while publishing your original novel, or even the English translation for that matter, because given the subject and the perspective, I think it's something which many publishers may not want to touch for obvious reasons. We won't discuss that in the Q&A. So what was your experience about publishing, Kashira?
No, I've been very fortunate even in this because the publisher is the same as Bhairappa sir's publisher, Sahitya Bhandara.
Ah,
They have published Avarna in 2007 and they are daring. I mean, they won't alter a single syllable. So I just gave them the manuscript and they were okay with that. The same is the case with Garuda. I think we need such publishers because in my book I have directly quoted the Quran, the Hadith, as much as our shlokas are there. So I did not face a challenge at all. And all credits to the publishers.
okay. So Sahitya Bhandara, and so let me, if anybody from Sahitya Bhandara is watching this program, I want to convey my thanks to you guys. So such publishers are the need of the day, to discuss topics that the society itself has been blinded and has been systematically blindsided, if I may say. So before we go to the questions, I would also, if we have time towards the end, I would love to ask you to read out a part, or a page or two from the book, Sahana.
Sure, sure.
Sure. So after that, so Hemanji, this is, am I right in reading that this is your first translation? Because it did not feel like that. As I kept reading the chapters, it felt like an original experience. So, what about the story, say, made you resonate so much to create this edition? Hemanji, you have to unmute yourself.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah, sorry. Thank you very much for that comment. It totally kind of validates and puts me out of my insecurity. This being my first piece of work, and I don't have any other benchmark to compare my work against. And if you really felt that connect, and you could actually visualize the bunker and all those things, I think I've done a good job then. So that kind of gives me that confidence in my own writing.
Done a wonderful.
But but my role has only been being the intermediary between the original and the reader who does not understand the original language. So everything that is there in it is basically Sahana's, and I'm only a translator here. And when I began the translation, basically it was Sahana calling people on Twitter, asking anybody interested. And at that point, I had not even read the original Kannada novel. I only knew that it was about Kashmir. And Kashmir as a subject has been something that's, that I have been very passionate about. Mainly because I got interested in knowing more about Kashmir as a young, early teens, and got drawn into Kashmiri Shaivism and the Shakta traditions and that's all. And also in my travels, I mean, I spent quite a few years in the States working, and one of the person I saw as my mentor professionally was, and he's also one of the sharpest minds that I've had fortune of working with, was a Kashmiri Pandit and victim of the genocide. His family had moved out, but he had stayed back in India and worked in India for quite some time. And then eventually he couldn't just, his family had moved to States. So he came back. But one of the best minds that I've worked with, and I kind of it's been a while, and in fact he passed away a couple of years ago, unfortunately. So Kashmir was something that I felt very passionate about, and also. I used to be quite a prolific writer in the early mid 90s, and then I kind of gave up on writing. I would do a bit of poetry here and there. I'd not taken up writing seriously, and there was some calling, I think, and it all kind of converged. And when Sahana's tweet and I saw, I immediately jumped and said, I would like to give it a shot. In fact, I told her that I have not done anything of this sort. I've only written poems. Would you like to take a chance? And she gave me 3 chapters to translate and say, okay, try this, and if it's good, we will talk. And looking back at what I did, it's laughable because I did not translate. I read the chapters and I wrote what I would have written. So basically, I just wrote my version of that. It was not a translation, it was my thing. And lucky that Sana did not laugh it off and ask me to take a hike. I mean, she told me that, it needs to be exactly the same as the original. So then I revised and I picked up on the techniques of translation, and yeah, so here we are. The book is a reality now, and it is actually connecting people with the actual original intent of that book. So that's been my process of being passionate about the subject into actually taking it up and finishing that project into a finished product, which I think is very timely. It needs to reach a lot more people. This story needs to reach everybody in India. So I'm glad that I was part of that journey.
So wonderful to know, Hemanji. So translation, it requires proficiency in both languages. So English, I'm not surprised.
Mhm.
But how did you manage to stay in touch with Kannada? Because literary Kannada again is a different ball game compared to the spoken Kannada that I managed to speak with, people around me staying in Bangalore. But literary Kannada has its own place, and it requires a lot of rigor again to read, appreciate it, and translate it without the content, the original content, losing its
Yeah.
weight.
Yeah. Well, I am a Kannadiga, and that cannot change. That's the firmware that is written. You cannot change that. So I think in Kannada and then
Yeah.
translate that to English. Even as I speak, I mean that happens subconsciously to all Indians, I suppose. We think in our mother tongues and articulate with whatever language we are using. So Kannada is something that comes naturally to me. And also with English, it's not, translation is not so much about finding sophisticated words to mean the same. It's actually about, this is something that I kind of learned through the process of doing this, because I wrote and I rewrote before sending it to Sahana for saying this is the version. So it's about understanding the original and trying to use as simple words as possible to communicate that we can, there is sophisticated language for the heck of using sophisticated language, and there is the use of language for the intent of communication. So I'm kind of reminded of Shashi Tharoor here. He uses sophisticated language that probably he and his buddies can understand. He doesn't communicate anything, right? The key thing is that the language needs to be simple, and the language needs to communicate the exact intent of the original in the case of translation. So I do have this tendency of overcomplicating, using sophisticated words, etc. And I get this critique on my Kannada poems that this language is probably of the Navodaya period. That's early 20th century period. This is not for today's Kannada readers. That's the critique I get for my work. So it started that way, and I myself have revised it multiple times before sending it to Sahana, and bring it down to a level where it's not about me. It's not about showing what kind of English I know. It's not about that at all. It is about the story, and it is about communicating what the original author intended to communicate to the story. And I think this journey has been quite, something that I have matured as a translator as well.
That's wonderful. I think there are questions coming up for you also, Hemanji. So after Sahana, I forgot to ask you one very, very important question. It's needless to say, it's a very sensitive topic that you have chosen. And nuance is one of the most important things, especially in a literary piece like this. It's so important to examine every perspective that you can. And given that Kashmir is so close to us, we are so passionate about it. So how did you balance that, on such a tight rope? It's politically a hot topic which requires you to really, hold everything real tight. And then, it's passionately so close to us, so close to our heart that we just want to pour out what we feel. So how did you balance both these aspects? Because that, I think, shows in the way you portrayed the Bashir family.
Yes, yes.
So
So
this kind of nuance is rare to see in today's literature. Even the literature is so polarized, and sometimes, if I may say, literature from certain corners is so dishonest. But this is one of the rare pieces where I'm seeing honesty, passion, as well as that care to present a nuanced view on everything. So how did you manage to
yeah,
satisfy
I
the cause?
think I think for any work of art, objectivity is very important. I am not writing a right-wing article here. This is a novel, and we bring human characters to play with all their colors. All the shades have to be there. Otherwise, I am not doing justice to the entire subject. There's another example in the novel. When these people were sent out after the Exodus, hordes of people came into Jammu, and the very Hindu brethren there started exploiting them. If
Hmm.
the house rents were say around 200 rupees, they would charge 1,000 bucks, and they would come and inspect the number of shoes and slippers that were outside the room each day. For example, if my family had four and I had bargained a deal with you and I was renting that place, if my cousin tomorrow comes from Kashmir, he is thrown off and he has nowhere to go, he asks for shelter, I am not supposed to allow him because the owner charges more, because you have two more people staying with you, or just take your luggage and get lost. I mean, this was what Jammu did to Kashmir, and we have to accept. We cannot say we were all great, idealism was there and we all welcomed with open hearts and minds. No, that was not the case. And there were so many instances of children being beaten up because they were very intelligent. Kashmiris are very intelligent. We have to accept that fact. And their children in the schools were beaten, harassed. Their girls were harassed. So they underwent a different sort of torment in Jammu. But the good thing is, gradually Jammu accepted them. I mean, that is what happens in the novel. So everything comes in a decent proportion. I think for that to happen, you have to have that objectivity, and you have to not be or get carried away by the emotions, because the emotions have to take the form of a rasa. Otherwise, raw emotions, when depicted, can be one-sided, as you're rightly saying. So throughout the novel, you will see such things happening. There's Bashir's wife who cannot change. She tries. Towards the end, she gives a final try. I don't want to disclose, but I'm just, because you have observed this, I'm glad you asked this. So there are, all the characters do contain this. I think that is what I've tried to achieve mainly. I have not tried to take the advantage that it's a subdued community. There was great oppression. Yes, it was all there. But what did we do? So in chapter 5, if you see the monologue,
Yes.
We've lost our Kshatra. Why do they cry? Why did they not think of a strategy? So there are many questions we will want to raise, isn't it? So that was what I intended to achieve.
Well, that's a lot for us to think about as a civilization. So, very glad you brought in those points in the story, Sahana. So, then, as you were speaking, I just got this mischievous question rather. So, is this kind of a well-rounded thought possible only when we think in our mother tongues because of that the rasa emotion equivalence, when we try to express something in Indic langages, the whole shabda artha balance, it brings out the balance, though we don't have it in thought. The
Yes.
word brings out the balance in Indic literature. And is that am I biased in saying that English language somehow fails to bring that out? So I want both your response as well as Hemanji's response in that.
I'll not give it to the language itself, Sai Swarupa, because I have seen people who are hell bent on not changing their views or not being able to look at it holistically, not even entertaining the facts which are there. I mean, we have to be honestly admitting our shortcomings. So it's mostly your thought process that has to be trained. Unless you are trained within, of course, we all think in our mother tongue. At least for me, I cannot think anything. I can't express myself effectively in English, be it spoken or written. So, but there is a maturity, there is a training that is required. And that's what I meant when I said initially, considering Bhairava sir's novels as textbooks will definitely help.
Yes.
If I begin, it will become a topic by itself. You look at Sakshi, you look at Sartha, he is so unbiased, he is so objective, and it's pure emotions. It can go this way, it can go that way, you just cannot predict. So that training comes through reading his novels. And this is to be taken seriously by anybody who, I think this is the third time I am reiterating, because you said this is a forum for authors also, aspiring authors.
Yes, yes. So I know we can't emphasize enough on that point. So good. So Hemanji, your views on thinking in English versus thinking in our mother tongues.
Mhm.
I ask this because a lot of books on similar topics which come originally in English, I see nuance missing. There is either a lot of emotion or a lot of where craft dominates the art. That's where dishonesty comes in, right? Craft is good, art, but art has to be the driving factor in a literary piece. So once craft takes predominance, I think we are going in a different direction. And so what's your view?
So indeed, so that was actually the biggest insecurity that I had when I dived deeper into this. I mean, I started off with enthusiasm, passion, and everything, and after reading and rereading the original, that was the biggest insecurity because the original is so impactful. That rasa that you mentioned. How do I even do that? Because I'm a Kannadiga, I think in Kannada, and then how do I transport that rasa into English? And that was my biggest challenge as the translator. It's a hugely responsible job to be a translator, and to me, then I figured it out, right? So there are four. Levels of speech. They say Chatwari Vak, Vaikari, Madhyama, Pashyanti, and Para. And this is at the Vaikari level where, so for example, here I'm producing sound and you are making up the meaning,
Yeah.
right? So this Vaikari, it's a conspiracy. I'm using a word and you are the maker-upper of the meaning, right? So the rasa is not in the word, it's not in the language. The rasa is in you, and all I have to do is provide those clues to unlock that rasa in you. So what I did was I kind of there were a couple of days I just stared at the paper at the original as to where do I do. I mean, there is one word in the chapter where Kashmir herself talks about her. And there's one word, Ratna Prasavi. It says, how do I even translate that into English?
Oh.
Yeah. So that one chapter, that one page, I've sat for 2 days just looking at it, and at some point I wanted to just throw the book away and go away. I mean, but the point is,
That's my favorite chapter, Hemant. You should be.
that is my favorite chapter also. And after I cracked it,
Which chapter is that?
that is chapter 6, I
Five.
think.
Chapter
Five,
five.
five,
The
five.
Okay,
law.
that one. Okay, okay.
Yeah. So after I cracked it, I mean, it was such a cathartic moment for me when I figured out that I don't need to worry about rasa of the other person, because it's the reader's responsibility to create the rasa. I don't know what happens in the reader's mind. All I need to worry about is giving those clues to unlock that rasa, and that is all language does. And that was a huge burden lifted off me. And in fact, that chapter, working on that helped me immensely, and realizing that I don't have this burden of creating that rasa, because what I was feeling about the original was my feelings,
Yes.
right? So all I had to do was to give those clues to people to unlock those feelings in them. So transporting rasa from one to one is not the responsibility of the words. The words are only responsible for giving those clues, guide them into that space in their minds where they can unlock that rasa themselves. So that was my experience as a translator.
So, so nice. So Sahana, before we open the floor for Q&A, could you quickly read out for us? I think let's read out that chapter 5, because there's so much
Uh,
information we.
no, let people read the chapter 5 and find it out for themselves.
Sure.
I'll pick something from chapter 20 because this is what happened on the day of Exodus, 19 January
Ah,
1990.
yes.
So how many minutes do I have to read this out?
I think we have about 17 minutes, so probably you can take 5 to 7 minutes, and we
Okay.
we shall focus on the Q&A for 10 minutes.
Okay. All right. Father, it's gotten dark very early today, hasn't it? Savita pointed out as she settled down to write her diary. Her discipline, tidiness, and patience are all like my mother's. Why do you write your diary? I asked. I can capture all my thoughts, unburdened by prejudice, reactions, or others' opinions. I feel calm after writing down. Do you know? You too can give it a try. Maybe I could have written about the demon tormenting me day in, day out. Don't know why I could not find the resolve to do it. I wondered how any young man marrying my daughter, who embodied beauty and brains, would be really lucky. January 19th, 1990, she wrote, thinking out aloud. It's bitterly cold outside. The snow that fell all day yesterday has given a brief respite today. We had complied with Girija for an early supper. Having just finished eating, we're up to do the dishes. Suddenly we hear knockings on our door. Check who it is before opening. Girija was unnerved. I peeked through the window. All the families in our lane were there. Angst writ widely on every face. Tear marks were visible on the cheeks of a few women. The children held tightly onto their parents. Or was it parents holding their children? Masterji, a huge procession is heading this way. Every Muslim here seems to have descended on the streets. Listen to what they are shouting. Faintly at first and loudly later, thousands of voices are rising in unison. Azadi ka matlab kya? La ilaha illallah. What does freedom mean to us? There is no God but Allah. Pakistan se rishta kya? La ilaha illallah. What's our bond with Pakistan? There's no God but Allah. I proceeded to open the door. No, no, the rage on their faces is scary. Just hear it through the window, that's enough. Sri Ram Kaul held my arm and pulled me back. There it is to see, at the corner of the window, an ocean of people with white skull caps barging into our lane, pumping their fists in the air, shouting slogans, picking up any stone they can find and hurling it at Hindu homes, shouting, almost ripping their throats. Azadi ka matlab kya? La ilaha illallah. Pakistan se rishta kya? La ilaha illallah. What is the link between freedom and Allah? Why are they trumpeting this in our lane? I was still looking through the window. It's even more apparent now. There are children, elders, and middle aged, all alike. Every face has the same look, like someone hypnotized them all and set them upon us. We were yet to regain our composure from all the slogans just when the loudspeakers in the mosques came to life simultaneously. कश्मीर में अगर रहना होगा अल्लाह अकबर कहना होगा. If you want to stay in Kashmir, you shall chant Allah is great. ए जालिमो, ए काफिरो, कश्मीर हमारा छोड़ दो. O wretched ones, O infidels, Kashmir is ours, get lost. The place is crowded with mosques, all blaring in unison. Looks like they have recorded these slogans on a cassette. They are playing it over and over again. We were taken aback. The children covered their ears. What do we do now? Turn off the lights first, Satish suggested. The sounds became more ominous in the dark. They are rushing into our lane, like arrows released from a bow. The flames from their torches are lighting up the path. Just then, another scream slammed our ears. Assi Gachi Pakistan, Batavrostoi Batnansan. We want a Pakistan here without the Hindu men, but their women. Now, even the elders are covering their ears. I heard some women sobbing too. They immediately ran inside. Let us call the governor's office for help quickly, somebody yelled. He was the governor of Jammu and Kashmir in the past too. During that tenure, since he had contained corruption and executed many development programs, everybody has unwavering faith in him. As the situation now has run out of control, he has been deputed again as the governor and has arrived in Jammu today. The phone is busy, says one. Try again, call him again, insists another. Hang on, I'll do it. On the one hand, the procession is closing in as seconds elapse and sloganeering reaches a crescendo. On the other is the cacophony of loudspeakers. Topping the din and throbbing in our ears are our heartbeats. Finally, we got connected. Sir, is that the governor? Yes, tell me. Sir, please do not cut the call. Please hear this. Listen to what they are playing from their mosques. The caller held the phone for the governor to hear it blaring a couple of times. Just then, someone else grabbed the phone. Sir, please do something right now. Send the army, send the air force. Otherwise, we'll all be dead by the morning. Before he could finish, another one snatched the phone. Sir, you are our last resort. Please do something immediately. Please. They are pleading helplessly. Tears are gushing down the eyes of a few. We've never wished anyone ill. Why this punishment for us, O God? The questioning heads are looking up to the heavens for response. Some elders have taken refuge in the puja room. I don't feel like pleading with anybody for help. Without Kashyapa's resolution, playing this demon is not possible either. I suddenly noticed something. Where are the ladies? I yelled. Batavrostoi Batnansan. The loudspeakers are terrorizing incessantly. Come here and look, said Sri Ram Kaul. The ladies have climbed up onto the attic and lintel in the kitchen. Some are preparing to go to the top floor. Some have knives in their hands, and a few others are carrying petrol and matchboxes. If anyone breaks our door and barges in first I'll set my daughter on fire and then will burn myself. We will not fall into anybody's hands, Girja said in a resolute voice. Others nodded, indicating their willingness to do the same. None of them is crying. They are ready to brave it. Tears are rolling down the eyes of men who have grown up learning not to cry. We are not sitting here wearing bangles. They must first deal with us before reaching you, assured Satish, who stood by the door with a machete in his hand. Others too stood there, making a weapon of anything they could find. I ran to the window on the top floor. The procession passed our house and went until the end of the lane and is returning. It is now clear to me that we are being warned. I called my brother but was unable to get him on the line. I called a few colleagues. Everywhere it's the same cacophony in the background. 4 decades ago, it was outsiders who tried to drive us out. Now it is the insiders that are ready to do it. We must leave, not from one or two towns, but from entire Kashmir. The procession moved from our lane to the main road. The jarring slogans gradually quietened, loudspeakers didn't. Nobody returned to their homes even after the turbulence had passed. No one slept either. Leaning on the walls and each other, they spent the night waiting for daybreak. The needle of the clock is stuck, cribbed someone. How can you discern the moment if you keep looking at it? Can't you check after some time? It's enough if somehow this night passes, commented another. Every 5 minutes or so, somebody or the other was heard repeating the same. At sunrise, everybody dispersed from our house. Within a couple of hours, some 7, 8 families were all set to leave Kashmir. We will be back immediately after the crisis. We are taking bare essentials. Seeing off helpless and somber faces, Girija broke down. Us? She turned to me after they left. I am the king of Kashmir. I shall not be intimidated by the gufa of any demon. I shall not desert my kingdom and flee, even if I am drowned in the river with a star. But it is not as if these rascals will drown me. It's my wife and daughter that they are after. Damn. So,
Thank you. And it just brought everything before my eyes, Sahna. I think a couple of attendees have the same to say. They say brings the Rama Kandarpa says brings the whole scene alive in front of the eyes. So thank you both of you for penning this. Let me, on that note, let me open the floor for Q and A. Sahana, this is from Hemant Gokhale. This is to Sahana Akka. Please elaborate on your experience in Kashmir.
I cannot elaborate in the interest of time, but yes, I would want to narrate one incident. I checked in a hotel in Srinagar because the Badgam Sheikhpura settlement, which I had to go to meet the Pandit, was very far from the city, and I wanted to spend some time in the city. So I checked into a hotel. My friends had arranged, and the manager, I had traveled in the afternoon. I think it was late evening when I reached. He offered to take the luggage. My friends left. They were staying nearby. They had very clearly told any help at any time of the day or night, just don't hesitate to reach out to us. So this man, he was quite young, and he I was carrying a small cabin bag, and then he dropped it, and he was like, "You are a woman, and how is it that you have come alone?" It's okay. I'm a Hindu. In my religion, it's permitted. I can travel alone. But what is the point? Why did you even? How did you even dare to come alone? I said, no. I travel everywhere, and I travel overseas. I travel alone. I'm used to. And then he didn't go back. He wanted to understand why I had come, and I had been told not to disclose. So I said I have come on an academic visit, just to study the places. And then the conversation began. He started asking my opinion about Kashmir, my political inclination, and Modi ji's government had just come. This is in 2016. I'm talking about, I guess, 16 or 17.
Mm.
And he, at a point, I had studied so much already. I knew the history. I started telling him about the accession. It got into a debate mode where I said it was a true accession. What Raja Hari Singh did, they have a different version. They think it's not an accession. So it lasted for about more than 1.5 hours. And towards the end, he got so furious. He just dropped my bag. He slammed the door behind him. Now, I was really worried then. What should I do? Should I call my friends? Why is he angry? Is he going to come back? I mean, a lot of things happened. I cannot now just want to elaborate on that. I'm avoiding. And I waited there for about 30 minutes that he might come back. He didn't come back to me then. And then I went to bed. And the very next morning, he came to me and he apologized. He said, I'm very sorry. I hurt you. I should not have done that. You were a guest, number one. Number two, you are a woman, so I should not have done that. I asked him which takes precedence, that I'm a woman or a guest. He said, no, because you are a guest, I'm apologizing. And in the interest of my business, I'm apologizing. I still disagree with you. I still dislike your viewpoint towards India. But because you are a guest, I am apologizing. So please don't spread this word. His adamance is something I could not completely comprehend then, nor can I do it now. He apologized every day. So long as I was there, every morning he would apologize. And even on the day I was taking out, he said, I'm very sorry. I should not have, no matter what I had in my mind, I should not have behaved like that with you. And I respect my guests.
Probably there
So
is some sense of deep guilt within them also, which they are not, able to comprehend, which is why, I
yeah,
mean, it's just my
he
feeling.
he did not let me sit for nearly 1.5 hours. I mean, I was so tired. I was just standing there, and he kept arguing. And the way he slammed the door, it's like, oh, something's going to go wrong today itself. I thought I'll survive for a few days. Now what's happening? So, and many a times network would go. We used to plan so many visits, and because of curfews, all of a sudden stone pelting, many times we had to alter our plans. It was very interesting, and it was very tiring, physically as well as psychologically. It was very tiring.
Sure. So there are a lot of questions. I'm a little doubtful if we can accommodate all of them. So Hemanji, the questions, I'll combine two questions for you. Hey, your namesake with the surname Gokhale. As what are the main things to be taken care while translating a piece like Kashira? And there's another question from Shiv Kumar who asked, which was the most difficult part of the book to translate? Did it have to do with the emotional part of the substance, or was there anything in the complexity of the subject?
Sure. So I think the answer, kind of the questions kind of gel well together. So what are the main things to take care of while translating a piece like Kashira? I don't know, like Kashira or unlike Kashira. Kashira is the only one that I've done so far, but I think the process of translation is still the same. So my initial versions of translation had a lot of me and less of Sahana in them. In that I would read it and the way I interpreted it would get translated. But along the way, I learned that that is not what is the ask here. The ask here is there is original, and the original, the same connections need to happen in English to the readership of English audience, basically. So the main thing that you need to know is read, reread, reread the original, and understand where the original author is coming from. So basically, that is the one that you need to translate. It's not how you understood it in the first read or how it made you feel in the first read. So that is something that you need to remain. The fidelity to the original is the paramount thing that you need to have for the translation to be a good translation. If the book itself is bad, and that is not your responsibility as a translator. Your responsibility is not to make a bad book good. Your responsibility is to
Keep.
take a book and make it the same book in another language, basically. So that is the key thing. So read, and don't pressure yourself to finish. Take time, because ultimately the finished product is the key. So keep a target. Keep a target of I kept myself a target of 3 pages a day, um, and I had a dashboard. I did some Excel formulas, remaining the number of pages remaining, etc. Whenever per day count went up, like if I had to do more than three, I would have a red thing flagging. So weekends I would just block all time out and try to catch up and keep a structure. Um, start working when your mind is fresh. That's when your best creative juices will flow. So early mornings, if you're a morning person, so have those targets. And what was the difficult part? Was it the emotional part or not? Emotional, I think, is actually quite easy to translate, because there are many words in which you can. But the difficult part in this was, there are so many untranslatable words. Like for example, murti.
Hmm.
Um, in English, it's common to use the word idol, but idol is not murti. I mean, it's just not. Idol is an inanimate thing. Murti is a live thing for us, right? So, do you retain it as murti? That means then the whole book will be too many Sanskrit terms, basically. And at some places the language is very I would use the word complicated incorrectly. It's not complicated for a native people who understand Sanskrit or Sanskritized language, but for English it's complicated, and it had to retain that gravity of those words. So it was more on the technical side that there was difficulty, but uh, the emotional parts of the thing. Yes, I mean there are many days that I've cried. There's no shame in admitting that I've cried quite a lot of days while translating this, because it's a very impactful story and it needs to be told. It is not. There are movies that are made on this story which kind of tries to secularize, quote unquote, the whole story, and basically that's an insult to the people who have actually gone through that. So uh, to really know the truth, it's very impactful. And a good cry is always useful. I mean, you do that, you go through that emotion, and then get back and write. So those parts actually, as a translator, I did quite enjoy those things. But the difficult part was the technicalities of translating some untranslatable words. I didn't want too many of those retained in their original form, so I had to find English words for them, and or coin together, cobble together English words to import that same meaning. So in hindsight, yeah, it was quite enjoyable actually. But while going through that, it can be frustrating sometimes.
I
Yeah.
think that's the hallmark of journeys which, demand our best. So, we kind of feel it.
Mm.
Nice. There are many questions, and I'm just asking if it's okay if we overshoot our time, or I just want to take 1 minute, Sahana Hemanji, to mark it. Indic Book Club Facebook group. I would like to invite you both to be a part of that. I'm sure after this interview, there are going to be vibrant discussions around this book, and it would be so nice if you would be there and answer the queries of other readers over there. So please, everyone viewing this, do join Indic Book Club Facebook group. Do I can I expect you to be a part of it, Sahna Hemanji?
I'm already a part of it.
Oh, you're already a part of it.
Yes,
Oh, very nice,
yes.
very nice.
I was not on Facebook for a really long time,
Okay.
but Sahana has convinced me that I need to be on it. So I have just about started. I'm getting the hang of Facebook. So yes, I will certainly
Yes,
join.
we'll just search you out and send you an invite. So I hope there will be. So guys, please join the Facebook group. Indic Book Club is the name. Read Kashira and discuss about it. We have the authors themselves there to answer your queries. There's one quick question about the translator in Hindi.
Yeah.
Who's the translator in Hindi?
Dr. Pradhan Gurudat.
Dr.
Gurudat
Prashant
ji,
Gupta.
yeah, who translates Bhairappa sir's works into Hindi.
Okay, okay, sure,
Yeah.
sure. I think it's available in the Kindle edition. I saw the Kindle edition
Yes, yes.
available.
Kindle also, and Prabhat Prakashan has put it on Amazon, I guess. Yes,
Yes,
both versions are
Amazon.
available. Yes.
Amazon, right. So, okay, thank you. Thanks a lot, Sahana Hemanji, for the for the very insightful. I just lost track of time. So the hour passed very soon. I hope there will be more books, more such insightful books coming from you, Sahana, and looking forward for more of your translations from hidden pieces of in Kannada language, Himaji. I wish you both all the best, and I hope Kashir becomes bestseller in all the languages. There are questions about Telugu translation, Marathi translation. I'm just hoping that everything happens.
Yeah, just to add, Marathi, the proofreading is going on. Mehta publishers have taken it up. Telugu, nobody has come forward, so it's pending. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Sahana. Thanks a lot, Hemanji. Thank you, viewers. Do be a part of our vibrant book discussions on our Facebook group. Do follow Indic Academy and Indic Book Club in all our social media handles. Do follow the authors and keep the discussion on our civilization alive. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.